And now, here are your hosts, the Schnitzel Boys.
Speaking of the 50 plus one, there was also some grumbling. This week's edition of Kicker magazine has a big article about Pepe and the Pepe hype, and there was a little sidebar about how David Blitzer sort of became a minority owner of FC Augsburg, and there's some grumbling there too that this wasn't really fully made transparent to the public, and he just kind of bought a minority stake, and then people were like, well, he's not really, doesn't have much influence. But I mean, he definitely facilitated this transfer. And so
Yeah, and last week our guest Rolf Stormann, who is an employee of FC Augsburg and hosts their podcast, he sort of mentioned they don't really care exactly the financial specific. I don't think the fans care at Augsburg, at least, the specifics. But I remember when Hertha Berlin got that huge investor, Lars Vinhorst, or I forgot his name, but he's some German billionaire, kind of like a German Elon Musk or whatever. Maybe not Elon Musk, but he's some German
I was going to
billionaire.
say,
Yeah, and he was convinced by the Hertha board to invest, and he gave him like 200 million euros above, because legally you can't own more than 49%. So no matter how much money you give an organization, you're never going to have more than a 49% stake ever. So if Hertha Berlin was valued at $100 million, and I give him $49 million, I get 49%. But if I give him $149 million, I still only get 49%.
Get 49, right,
it doesn't get past that. So Lars Vinhorst, that might be his name. I think that's kind of his name. Again, I should have Googled this ahead of time. Gave them like 200 million euros more than would have given him a stake. And I'm just very curious, why? Where does he get? He must get his money back somehow. Maybe he gets a percentage of shirt sales or merchandising rights. There's probably some business voodoo that goes on, that people are doing their best to try to circumvent the 50 plus one a little bit. Here's this again. This is just me spitballing here. But let's say I invest into Augsburg, and I spend $20 million on Ricardo Pepi. $10 million comes from the club. $10 million comes from me personally, and I own a 50% stake in Ricardo Pepi, like a third-party owner. And so he's an Augsburg player, but maybe I have 50% rights to all his shirt sales, his merchandising rights, and maybe I get a 50% stake to his sell-on too. Maybe that's something that's going on. I don't know. I'm sure there are rules against stuff like that, but I'm sure that's the kind of business dealings that's happening behind the scenes. And this David Blitzer, what's his motivation to be a minority investor in a small Bundesliga club? Does he get his money back?
Well, he wants his stake to increase in value, right? Like that's he bought his shares for a certain amount, and he's hoping to drum up American interest, raise the profile of the team and make it more valuable. I think.
Well, more power to him. More power to him. There is sort of. I'm a fan of the 50 plus one rule in general. I like the control. I like the fan engagement. I like that it's reasonable. I think German clubs for the most part are financially very stable. In contrast to clubs in England, they're a little bit more stable. And does it hamper growth? Well, I don't know. That's sort of the big topic this week.
I think yes. Dominance. I think the answer is yes. I think the answer is unequivocally yes. It does hamper growth.
Well, but essentially all it's doing is if let's pull an example of that. Let's say some Saudi Arabian consortium worth $1 trillion buys your club. Let's say that happens. Let's just pretend in the real world that's happened recently in Newcastle, perchance.
Right.
Let's say instead of buying Newcastle, they bought Augsburg, and they just owned Augsburg. And then they just gave Augsburg $200 million to buy players. That would grow them, but I think it'd be that's just inflating. Essentially, nothing was earned. You know what I mean? As a club, they didn't pull it off. They just have all this injection of cash, and they're just some rich guy's play toy now. What happens when that rich guy doesn't want that play toy anymore? You know what I mean? There's no stability there.
Well, I think that's what the
50 plus one rule prevents.
I think I agree. I agree with you. That's true. But if you compare, the Bundesliga to other European leagues, they are more financially responsible, but I think the trade-off is they have fallen behind a little bit in terms of the quality of the squads compared to England, Spain, and even Italy. Now I think Germany's now 4th, right, in the UEFA coefficient, where they determine how many Champions League spots you get, etc. I think it's pretty even with Italy, but it used to be, for a while, Germany was 2nd after La Liga and ahead of England, and that's certainly not the case now. And I think
that was a while ago, though. Now it was probably back in the 90s.
Like no, not that long. 5-6 years, not that long ago.
Oh,
yeah.
And what that forces Bundesliga to do is develop youth, and I love that. I mean, England doesn't develop youth. Italy and Spain do, but I think Germany does a little better, and Germany does a better job developing everybody else's youth as well. So, like, the other thing about the 50+1 rule is it's good for us Americans because it forces the clubs to really put forth effort into their youth development, which in the Bundesliga, I must say, is tippy-top class. There's a few non-Bundesliga academies that are excellent. I'm not saying there aren't, but overall, the Bundesliga is a great place for a young player to go.
It definitely is.
And so the 50+1 rule has benefits. It develops our young players. It develops our Sal Zizzo and Sebastian Soto and Josh Sargent. All those great American players.
Yeah, those great American players who come from Germany.
That was just the Schnitzel Boys video on YouTube. Thanks for joining us. If you like that one, we've got a couple other ones right over here. And if you like that one, don't be afraid to subscribe, like, and ring that bell.
It's the Schnitzel Boys, it's the Schnitzel Boys.